If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims. Well, welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jocelyn King. Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, Carissa. Hello, everyone. So great to be with you.
And where are you connecting from today?
Today, I happen to be in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay. Is this a vacation?
I love to combine business with pleasure. So I had a business event in Phoenix and on 2 weekends. And so then in between, went to see the Hot Air Balloon Festival or the Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh
And came
my
back to
gosh, that sounds
Scottsdale.
amazing.
It's a bucket list item, and I am a big, I spent too many years having a bucket list that was not getting checked off, and then realized I want to put a lot of big things and small things on my bucket list and do a lot of them on a regular basis. And so that's how I'm living now, and that's what I just did, and it feels wonderful. So it's just a wonderful thing to do, and I encourage everybody, find small things to add to your bucket list that you can do on a monthly basis and check them off.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's feeding your soul.
Yes.
I can tell you're just like feeling full. And how was that festival for you?
It was incredible. I've been seeing pictures of that and videos of it since I was a little girl. And I've loved hot air balloons ever since I saw The Wizard of Oz and watched the wizard fly off in one. I said, "Oh, that looks like fun." And I had the pleasure of riding in a hot air balloon in my early 20s down the Napa Valley, which was great. That was a lovely thing. But it's been a few years since then. And being there where you're literally watching hundreds of balloons, and it's one thing to watch it, but to be on the ground, hearing them and watching them take off. And I got to be a navigator and helping to set one up, hold the basket or gondola down and help the captain. I've never been someplace where so many thousands of people are so happy and calm and elated at one time. It was really a wonderful sensation to be in a crowd like that. So that I went there for the balloons, and I stayed and will return for the community and ambiance.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I think I'm going to have to put that on my list then
It's
of
great.
things to do. I mean, I'm in Colorado. I'm not that far away.
That's
So
right. That's right.
yeah. And I see hot air balloons all the time because there's a takeoff point about like half a mile from me in Erie. They take off by this lake. So I'm always seeing them, and it just warms my heart, and I love it. And did you get to ride in one when you were there at the festival, or is it mainly about watching and being there with them?
Mainly on this one, I was watching. There's a way that
Okay.
you can do that, and then I would have changed my trip, but I said no, we're going to come back
Okay.
because I was working, I had some workshops and stuff to lead on weekends that I wasn't. I want to go back on the weekend and experience some things there. And so, if you are going, you can do one of two things. You can sign up, to get a balloon ride, but I recommend your first day you stay on the ground because watching them take off and being on the ground is
Hmm.
super exciting. I don't want anybody to think that you have to ride in a hot air balloon to get the full experience. And then you can volunteer, and sometimes the volunteers get picked to hop in a balloon, but then you can
Oh,
also get tickets to do a balloon ride as well. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend.
oh, that's great. And maybe you can do PR for them. Sounds like you're really good at that.
I'm not an affiliate, and I'm getting no kickback from this. I'm just
He gets
a
no,
diehard
yeah.
admirer.
That's wonderful. Purely from your heart.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
let me share a little bit about Jocelyn because we got sidetracked with hot air balloons. Jocelyn is a Silicon Valley mover, shaker, and glass ceiling breaker. While she is the consummate success story of a strong woman making it in a male-dominated world,
being a world traveler and having all the right degrees, know-how, and trainings, her backstory is even more interesting. She dropped out of high school, survived a mugging and a sexual assault by her first employer, had her identity stolen, was twice suicidally depressed, and countless times thought she wouldn't make it out of the impossible situation she was in. Jocelyn's triumph over setback and learning how to overcome whatever hand life deals you made her a qualified expert on how to protect yourself physically, personally, and professionally. So happy to speak with you today.
So great to be with you. I love your show, and it's wonderful to be here with you in person.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn. And it's really an honor to be with you. And you've had so much success, and you've really transmuted your trauma and your experience into helping others. Could you share your journey a little bit?
Absolutely. And I hope it resonates with everybody because I have yet to find somebody who has not been traumatized at some point in their life by something. And obviously, some are horrific, and there's greater and lesser
There's a
degree.
range,
Right. But
but
part
it's
of
also
being
how you
human.
react to it. I mean, so it's that too.
Right, exactly. Well, my first employer, I was sexually assaulted by my manager, and I just kind of stuffed that down. I ended up leaving. I couldn't perform on the job afterwards for
Mm,
some reason, no surprise. But,
yeah.
I
Was
was,
he physically coming on to you?
yeah, and he physically assaulted me. If he
Mm,
dropped, we were in a car and he dropped everybody else off and then was supposed to be giving me a ride back, and then did not. And what I found from that is, I was 18 and here I was going, oh, I'm learning sales. I'm going to be this, I'm going
mm,
to make my own way in the world and all this stuff, and
hmm.
bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and like, ooh,
Yeah.
and I had all
Naive,
these goals.
really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and naive and and so then I went from that to feeling like, wow, the world is really an unsafe place.
Yes.
And it's one thing to acknowledge that there are unsafe things in the world and to mostly feel safe. And since then, because as we talk, more and more will come out, but I've worked with so many people that have had far more horrific stories than I have, and other people who have had, haven't had violent, dramatic things happen to them. But
Mm,
it all comes to the same thing of how I fundamentally feel, and this is true for everyone, but particularly for women, if we don't feel safe, we really are not able to live our best life. We're really
mm,
not able, like, I believe everyone's here with a vision, a dream, a mission, purpose that they want to, embody and things they want to do. And part of the lovely magic of being alive on planet Earth is getting to discover your innate talents and what resonates with you and kind of why you're here and your purpose, if you will. And when you feel unsafe, it stops all that. You're in a fight or flight survival mode and you're unable to arrive and thrive. And I think so. What I have done, because I'm also, among other things, I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and executive women in Fortune 100 companies, and even startup founders, men and women. And fear is the number one thing that makes or breaks the calculated risks we take and the way we support ourselves in finding our own dreams and living our ideal life and a life we love. And so it kept leading me back to solving for fear. It's like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if people can picture that pyramid. It's like safety is foundational,
mm,
and if you feel safe, you're going to then think, what do I want to do with my life? But if you don't feel safe, you can't, that's not even a question to consider. So I'm really about helping people learn how to protect themselves online and in life so that they can go live their best life.
mm. That's beautiful. And do you feel like for women, that's a fundamental need before we can thrive is to feel safe?
Absolutely. And let me give you an example. And I know this from I studied the research. I did a lot of studies on this in my 16 years of getting my bachelor's and then my master's degree, as well as learning things. I became a certified neurosculptor along the way and learned a lot about how our brains operate, particularly how we, what happens to our brains under stress and in fear when we go into fight or flight mode, and how to get out of that. And in the process of all of that, women in particular, like let me give you an example. A man and a woman separately walking out of a Walmart at 10 o'clock at night. The
Hmm.
man, I'm gross generalizing here, but this is, the exception would not prove the rule true. A man's thinking, oh, I can catch the highlights of the game or the scores on the way home or
Mm.
whatever. The woman's looking around, going, okay, the car's over there. I don't see anything funny. I can get there, unlock the door, get in, put my bags down, and lock the door, start the car. And then, oh shoot, the battery has been acting a little funny. I hope I get home okay. All right, my phone's charged. We are hardwired for a number of reasons to, um, to be careful for our own safety. And we're also the ones who are protecting, our children and our loved ones and looking at their well-being. And I'm not saying men don't do that too, but men are the protectors, of the people around them besides themselves. So a lot of the teaching that I do for men where they don't feel unsafe in the world, they learn a lot about how the women in their lives are what they're contending with and trying to overcome or feel comfortable with and feel safe in the world so that they can live their best life. So there's something for everybody in looking at how you stay safe online and in life. And gone are the days when, in order to protect yourself and, if you're or your family, you pull up the drawbridge and fill up the moat. Now your kids, your wife, girlfriend, husband, spouse, parents are all walking around with mobile devices that have hundreds or thousands of opportunities for people to get in and create harm. And so we need to learn how to protect ourselves online the same way over thousands of years we've learned to protect ourselves in the physical world.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, if you're okay with it, I would love to go back to high school. What made you want to drop out of high school?
Well, actually, I was in advanced placement, so I was doing well and I
I
really enjoyed
thought you
it.
might be bored.
But
That was my
um,
intuition.
it was a little bit of that, but actually my parents were quite a bit older and they were having some health issues and they were looking at moving into
Oh,
a retirement home and things. So for some family reasons, and I was a caretaker in the family, and
okay.
I felt the need to, put family first. And I didn't, I didn't even understand how to apply to college or how to get in. I didn't know how to set up a checking account. I did not have any basic life skills by the time I turned 18. And
Okay.
I learned even the basics through some trial and error. But and then I just found that, my parents moving into a retirement home for uh, for retired people and above, I could not live there. You had to be minimum 55 years old to live there. So I had 3 months to find a way to support myself and everything. And then I was out, so I had to figure it out. And
Wow. And that's when you got the job. And then that assault happened. Did you quit right away?
I quit no, what happened is that because I was so traumatized and I was kind of walking around in a daze without realizing it. Because, when you're 18, you don't understand what's happening when something
Yeah.
happens. And found myself unable to do my job and going to the bathroom in a restaurant and crying for no reason,
Oh,
I thought, and everything. And I could not figure out and I couldn't perform. And I felt like a failure. And I ended up, you have to meet this was a sales organization. You had to meet certain sales goals or you were cut. And I was going to get fired. So I quit. And when
okay.
I quit, I got basically kicked to the curb and I couldn't even say goodbye to any of the friends I had made or anything. And so I went back home to my parents' retirement home where I could then stay again for up to 90 days. And again, I had to figure it out.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And then what about the mugging? How did that happen?
That was a number of years later. I was a working mom. I had brought my son home, picked him up at school, brought him home. made dinner, and then I was like, oh, I have to get him some stuff for school tomorrow and I have to do this. So I went to the local market, got some,
And were you single or you married at the time?
I was married at the time and
Okay.
my husband was home with our son. And I went out. That was the reason we couldn't go together too. So I went out and coming out of the store, my spidey senses were up a little, like I just have to be careful. I did get to my car, no problem. But I got home and I parked in the garage and walking from the garage to the back of a condominium complex that we lived in, I was mugged. And that after the other trauma I'd had kind of just sent me I into a I was afraid to go out at night. I was afraid to go out during the day too, but I would, but I was afraid to go out at night and I had agoraphobia. I started having panic attacks at night.
Oh,
And this was in winter, so when I left work, I was walking to my car in the parking garage 2 blocks away in the dark. And I was like, I wanted to start calling in sick and just not go to work. And I couldn't, I could just see that the spiral downward was
mm.
starting. And that was when I found myself in a clinical depression. And the way I got out of that was my husband at the time said, we gotta get you out. So on Saturday, the three of us with our son, we went to the local mall. And outside the mall, there was a demonstration from a martial art studio nearby.
Okay.
And, I saw it, and there was a woman participating, and she looked all empowered and happy and living, like living in her power. And I felt so on the other end of the spectrum from that. I was like, I
Mm.
want that. And so I went over and talked to them, and then I started doing classes and I started training in martial arts. And my
And
teacher's teacher was Bruce Lee. And so, and I'd
oh
always,
my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, what city was this in?
this was in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh my
And,
gosh, that makes sense. That makes
and
sense.
and I didn't watch tons of martial arts films growing up or anything, but I certainly knew who Bruce Lee was, and I hugely admired him.
Very
And I thought,
spiritual, like
yes, yes,
almost
I
like
like
an
that.
avatar, like
Right.
very wise. Yeah.
And this particular style of martial arts was created by a very petite Chinese nun. So this was the nun who could take down the warlords. So it had nothing to do with size or physical power. And I said, that is for me. Found a whole personal empowerment in doing that.
That's incredible. So you never went to therapy or anything. You
I did. I
found
did go to
martial arts.
therapy. I did
Okay.
go to therapy, but I went to couples counseling, and in couples counseling, I found it came up. So this is like 7, 10, 8, 9 years later, and it came up, and then I started dealing with it. And then I went to a support group of wonderful women. It was also a very helpful support group because we didn't just focus on what had happened and stay stuck there. We acknowledged what has happened and we focused on how to reclaim our power and, and everything. So it was really more about what are we going now that this happened, how are we going to be forged by the fire? So we didn't just focus on the trauma, which I learned from neuroscience later. You can actually keep re-traumatizing yourself by even making the excuse of, well, I can't do that because I'm this way because this happened to me. You kind of reinforcing the negative things that happen to you or reinforcing a victim mentality is actually a form of re-traumatizing yourself. And so it was really good to find that balance between not ignoring it, which I had been doing, but also not continually dwelling on it, but really using it as a launch pad. And I'm ultimately grateful for the path that I found, which I would not have found had that not happened to me. So, in essence, I'm grateful that it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, I would just have to say that you're a very powerful woman to take this trauma and inspire you to keep other women safe. So tell me what came out of that. So you were working for another company and then did you decide to start your own company?
Well, no, at that time I was working my way up. I loved tech. I'm a little bit of a geek and a nerd, and I wanted to, I loved how things worked. And I was, and so I kind of saw Silicon Valley as this like, ooh, this is where all these cool things are happening, and,
Yeah.
the Steve Jobs and Apple and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I'd like to be part of that. So I found my
Yeah.
way there.
And when
And
was that? Was that in the 90s?
this was in the, yes, well, actually, this was in the 2000s. And
2000s.
so,
Okay.
and so I went there. So I was in Silicon Valley when when the iPod came out and the iPhone came out and all that stuff. And I
Yeah.
got to work in the
Yeah.
company.
I was there at the same time.
Oh, that's
That's so
awesome. Look
funny.
at
I
that.
lived in Mountain View. I was a consultant for AOL Netscape. Do you
Oh
remember
my
that
gosh. Oh,
merger?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great. And so I got to meet people who worked at all these companies.
I
I
love that.
friend who was an early employee at Google, and everybody's like, why are you going to go there? I worked at Intel for
Why
a
are
while.
you gonna go there?
Why would you go there? There was people who were leaving these good jobs at well-known big companies.
To
And
go
some
to
of those
Google.
companies, those big companies that were the safer bet, are not around anymore. But then they
Right.
became employee number 20, and they're now, they now own their own islands. So, you got to
That's
do.
right. Because that's when Google started. Was it in 2000s? But I was not aware of it then. Yeah, anyway.
Right. But I really enjoyed it. And while I was there, I just kept working my way up. And and at this point, I'm a single mom. I'm going to school part-time while working, and I'm a
How
director.
old were
I'm
your
managing.
kids?
They were at this point, like around, they were teenagers. So they were
Teenagers. Okay.
my son was in high school. And but I'm working my way up and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm getting to travel the world for business and then sightsee, on the weekends. And it just was heady stuff, and I was really enjoying that. And then my company got acquired by Intel, and I got to work with the CEO of Intel and rub elbows with all these
Oh,
leaders.
wow.
It was
That's pretty
exciting.
high up.
It was exciting. Well, and I wasn't in a C-suite yet or anything like that. I wasn't a senior vice president, or I was a senior director, working my way up. And so here I am, and I've bought my house in a beautiful place where I've got some, nice trees around. I'm not like in the heart of Silicon Valley. I have this beautiful escape. And in the height of that, I get targeted by cyber criminals. And so here I am about to crash
Oh,
on one of my professional dreams. And I get targeted by cyber criminals. And it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing thing that lasted forever. And they hacked my network. They unlocked my ID security system that was professionally installed and monitored
you
and,
mean your
password
security
protected
system at home?
at home. And
Oh my
so
God.
they were actually able to hack through and impersonate a family member and unlock our doors. And so, unbeknownst to us, we had our house broken into and surveillance devices planted, and we didn't know about it because if you come home and your door's been kicked in or your lock's been jammed and you can see
Right.
and
It's
things are taken or
it's
turned
obvious.
over, you've had an intruder. Ours didn't happen that way. They weren't taking anything. They were bringing things in. They were surveilling. And it went on for a very long time. And I was cyber stalked, and it took an emotional and mental toll. And having
Oh,
been through the
wow.
earlier trauma that I was in, this was kind of a trigger of like, well, I'm here again, and what is going on.
Yeah.
But and I knew nothing about cybersecurity. I worked in tech, but cybersecurity and tech are two different things. And so learning about, well, how do you protect yourself online? So when something bad happens to you, what do? You go to the authorities, right? So I
Right. But
did,
that's
and
pretty sophisticated. What you
it
had is a whole nother level, but they were stalking you, they were targeting you because they wanted to watch you. Like, what
they
was
wanted
their
to, they
purpose?
wanted well they wanted to learn information about us, and without getting into all the specifics, my personal thing, what I can tell you is I've talked to a lot of other people who have had these long-term things happen, and they're basically trying to get certain assets from you or certain information from you. And by the
Okay.
way, this is what's behind ransomware attacks. For instance, when people have ransomware attacks, they don't suddenly hack in, put, on Monday morning, put malware, and then that morning say, freeze your accounts. They actually get in and especially if you're a company or have any significant, wealth or anything, they're actually in reading all your emails and going through all your documents for months. In fact, they're seeing the conversations. They're seeing, if you're a company, how much cyber insurance do you have? What's your deductible? How much will they pay? They know how much you can pay and will pay. Some ransomware cases have unearthed that there's emails between executives talking about they have to set a baseline for, a cap of what they'd be willing to pay or walk away. Well, the cyber criminals get that information, and guess what the amount is that they ask for in the ransomware, the amount that you've set. So there are these cases where they're not one-time events, and it's not that your social security number and other things got stolen in a breach and you got the letter from the company that was breached. There's all different types of cybercrime. And so I happened to be a victim of this long-term one. And
Wow.
and
I'm
it
so
but it did.
sorry.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Well, and I learned, I tell you, I have empathy for everybody else who's ever gone through it. And it was devastating. I mean, it took a toll on my career because I couldn't focus at work the same way when I've got this going on. It took a toll on my relationship, my husband's health, my health, our finances. I lost over cash wise, I lost over $250,000
Because
unrecovered.
were they taking money out of your accounts?
No, they were doing things that ended up costing us.
Oh, costing you
And
money.
then at the same time, there were all these other things going on where we would have been making money, and we that didn't happen because we were focused on this. So you have opportunity cost loss. I say this too because a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs and
Right.
so entrepreneurs. So here's the scary fact for small companies, small businesses, two-thirds of them that are attacked will go out of business within 6 months after it happening because like a ransomware attack where they can't access their files and they do not have any backups and they don't have a way and their customer records are taken and everything, two-thirds will close their doors. And and because small businesses have fewer protections in place than large corporations and fewer resources, they're more targeted. So they have more accounts. You don't hear about them because the ones that make the headlines are the data breaches of the big banks and the big consumer companies. Those make the headlines because of the uh, the breadth and how many people they touch. But small businesses are victimized, more frequently and are more targeted. And that's
Yeah, because
on a
I bet
mission.
it's easier because we don't have as much security for
Correct.
small businesses, I would think.
Correct. Well, and think about it. And I'm an entrepreneur now. I have a small business. So I've been an executive in a Fortune 100. I've been a co-founder of two companies, so running the whole thing with all the other executives and all the customers and the employees and the partners and everything. And I've been a solopreneur, and then I've been a small business owner. And what I can tell you is for everyone listening who is or knows someone who is a small business owner, what are all the hats you wear? You've got your subject matter expertise. You're also your head of finance, your head of sales, your head of marketing, your head of operations, your head of planning. Well, you're head of IT. I mean, even if you're hiring somebody to do that for you. And so you're all, without knowing it, you're also the head of cybersecurity strategy and tactics and prevention, and you don't know it. And you're kind of relying on your IT systems to protect you. And they are not going to make you airtight. First of all, there's really no such thing unless you're in a bunker, but there's good news here. You can prevent and protect yourself from a lot of the things that could happen.
And that's do you have that in your book, Sitting Pretty or Sitting Duck?
So my book,
No.
and it has a different title now, but it's coming out early next year. And
Okay.
because I've been raged, that was the working title of the book. Yes, but
Okay.
it is all about the cyber safety basics.
Okay.
And I also teach.
I need that. I need
I
that.
well, and I have
Everyone does.
I
Everyone
have
needs
three
it.
tips on I just, in fact, this is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so I'm putting out 31 tips in 31 days
Oh
for
my God. I'm releasing this episode next week.
Okay, great. Well, and people can go in and you can see all 31. And I talk about small businesses more than once during the month because it is so important. And here's the thing, our economy, I mean, and our livelihood and so many people's lives are based on it. If you're a solopreneur or a small business owner with a handful of employees, whether they're 1099 or direct, really doesn't matter. The last thing you need is a ransomware attack or a breach. Like I knew a veterinarian who was a lovely man, had a great business, was well loved, and he had an office manager who was a lovely young woman. But she had a boyfriend who had a secret life and took a crime of opportunity um, when she left her laptop logged in at home And he went in and downloaded all the veterinarians' clients and all of their credit cards, which were on
Oh,
file and were accessible to him. So that's the other thing. As a small business owner, you think, okay, well, I'm giving, Jane and Sally and Joe and whomever and Ravi, access to this, but all the people they have that get access to them or can hack
that's
through them.
right.
And you
That's
don't
right.
think about that. And so there's ways we
That's
want to protect our
true.
controls. But so he downloaded all of this and there was all these crimes and it was so big that it actually, had that it was all traced back to the veterinarian. Well, think of this. So first of all, he had a lot of clients who understood, but think of the reputational damage. Think of yourself as a business owner if
No,
all of
people don't
your
want to go
customers
there.
credit cards, and a
Yeah.
lot of people left because of it.
Yep.
But even if you take that off, think of the mental and emotional stress of all
Yeah.
that. And then all the time you have to put into that. He wasn't busy enough as a veterinarian and running the business and doing the books and doing the taxes and paying the employees and all this. And now on top of it, he's got a major security breach, a reputation breach. So this is why, and he did not go under, but he almost did. I mean, and then he got more gray hair during that time, during those 9 months. So it's not worth the stress if you can prevent it. And that's why I want to be educating people of what to do to protect themselves personally. And I will have some things targeted just at small businesses after my first wave of safety, my first book comes out. But because it is so important, it's important to so many lives and so many wonderful people who are doing good through small businesses. I don't want to see them fail. And it's so important even to our economy. We have so many entrepreneurs in our country, and that's one of the many things that makes our country so wonderful. And I'm tired, having been hacked and then clawed I did not think I would recover, but I did. And it took years, and I found all these incredible cyber experts along the way, people who used to protect the Wall Street trading floor from trillions of dollars, from people who were protecting, companies like Microsoft and things like this from the thousands of daily attacks that come at these
Mhm.
companies. And
Yeah.
so I learned what cyber criminals are like. There's all different levels of them. Some are just little opportunists and some are
Yeah.
big businesses. And then you've got nation states too and things like that. I
Yeah.
work for the people that, the large companies hire and say, come at us like you're China. Come at us like Russia. They do. And this will be like a 3-month long thing. And they do it through social engineering. And their goal is to get the intellectual property of one of these Fortune 100 tech companies. And 3 months later, they deliver it and they say, and this is how we got in, and this is now, and then here's what you need to do to prevent it. And
Yeah.
social engineering. So I've met these people, I've worked side by side with them. I stood right next to them while they're going through the dark web. I've watched, I've seen the profiles of the people that they've brought down and, the bad guys that they've caught. And one of the things I learned is the bad guys only have to be right once. But if you are, start protecting yourself, they're not going to, those little crimes of opportunity are not there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I'm super excited for your book. I want to share a little bit of my personal experience with at least cybersecurity. I'm not going to go into like all of my trauma and all that since we kind of like focus now on the cybersecurity, but I definitely have that in my life too. But it just happened. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. It happened yesterday. So I got an email so I do consulting with this nonprofit, and I got an email from the CEO and it said, reply ASAP, give me your cell phone. I can't talk right now. I'm in a meeting with shareholders. So I was like, how does he not have my cell phone? So but it didn't totally trigger.
Right.
I sent my cell phone. They texted me. They said, I need to get gift cards for the entire staff.
Yeah.
They wanted me to go to a store. This is what they're texting me because
Right.
now they have my cell phone.
Yep.
So they said, go to a store and I want to see what they have. And I was like, well, why can't we do that online? I was kind of like another flag went off a little
Right.
bit.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, I wasn't ready. I had to take a shower and like eat and stuff. So I'm like, I can't go right now. I'll keep you posted. And then, um, and then I was like, I figured it out that it was a random person because I went back And I checked the email and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Because what they do, and you know this, being a cybersecurity expert, they replace the email and they title it something else. I mean, they title it whatever they want. It's DocuSign. I mean, I get bombarded with trash
Mhm.
mail, but this mailbox, because it's through my consulting gig with this nonprofit, I never get any junk mail, but I did. I got targeted and I was like super embarrassed. And I had to tell the CEO and everybody. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because that's not alone. That's happening to tens of thousands of people every day.
Okay.
And it's social engineering. But here's the great thing. Your spidey senses did say something isn't quite right here. So my number one thing is please pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Because what happens, and I go into this in some of my tips that you'll hear if you listen to them, but one of them is the number one tool. The number one tool that hackers have is your fear. Okay. And being a certified neurosculptor and learning about the brain, here's the thing.
And I love that title, by the way. I have to ask you about
That's
that
from
next.
yeah.
Neurosculptor.
Yes. And so that's from the Neurosculpting Institute in Denver. But what I learned is that we have our fight or flight, which everybody's familiar with, fight, flight, or freeze, right? So that's in your lower brain. And then you have your prefrontal cortex in front, which is where all your higher thinking, your creative, calm, relaxed, big picture, great ideas come from, sense of right and wrong and all that. You can only your brain only fuels one or the other at a time. It's like a teeter-totter. You've got one fuel pump and these two things going for it, using the energy. And so what hackers do, their number one tool is to give you a trigger that puts you into a fight or flight,
Oh,
because
that's it.
your
That's
limbic
it.
brain will panic and go, uh-oh, I got to do this. And they're using time. They're using a sense of urgency.
That's right. I got the reply ASAP.
Correct. Correct. And and from somebody that you're connected to. So they did social engineering on you.
They
So this is
did.
great. We got to go through half of the playbook on this one. This is great.
Okay.
Yeah. So another part of the playbook for hackers is that they know that you two are connected. You're connected on
Yes.
LinkedIn, or and there's all these ways.
Yes, we're connected on LinkedIn.
Correct.
Yes.
But they have access through many, many means to know who is there. And they're trying to get to him. So they found you as the pawn to get to him. And
That's right, because he's very successful, wealthy. Yeah.
correct. So, and then they text it and they do something. So whether he's sometimes they'll do this like Friday, but what they're doing is they're also aware, and whether they're in, the Midwest or the Middle East, I mean, they could be halfway around the world, or they could be, one state over, but usually these are offshore. So they're doing it in the middle of their night, right? Doing it during the daytime stuff. So what they're doing is they're going to use it during daytime hours, but say, I'm in a meeting, I can't go, because otherwise you would call their cell phone, right?
Right.
They take your normal response to verify and fact check off the table. Okay. So anything that takes a verification method you would normally do off the table should be, guarded with suspicion. The other thing you want to do is
Yeah.
they use emails and texts. And so if you get an email, most people look at who it's from, and it would say Carissa Sims. But if I look at Carissa Sims and it's actually, I've got you at gmail.com, you know that it's not really Carissa Sims, or
You're right. You have to click on the email to see exactly what the email is. That's what
right.
Yeah,
And
you're
on
right.
certain email systems, you can actually set it up so you can see the email address. And I like to go by that. I'd rather
Oh God,
have
that's
an
so
email
much
address.
better. So you
And
can
not
change
everything
your
does that.
settings to
You
that.
can, yeah. So look at your settings, not some of
Oh,
them
got it.
stuff, but you always want to look at that. The other thing is never go like a big way they do this, like for instance, after the crowd strike, right? What happened? So many people were stranded at airports. So again, you're sleep deprived.
The
You're cranky.
pilot strike, is that what you said?
So when the CrowdStrike event that happened a couple of months ago.
Okay.
So that grounded all the airplanes, shut down all
Yeah.
this, and it was not a bad actor getting in. It was friendly fire here, but it was, when it was software, it was a software issue, but it grounded all these planes. So we had thousands and thousands and thousands of people stranded in airports. So hacker's paradise because they go, oh, good, problem of the week that we get to take advantage of. So what do? They start texting. So they see you're on social media and you're
Yeah.
posting, I'm stranded at the airport and I can't believe that, fill in the blank, airline, I can't get a flight and this and that. So they see that post. So they reach out to you through text and they say, this is that airline and we want to help. We can get you on this X flight. So they were offering ways
Oh,
to get on another flight. And then but you click on the link and you pay the money. And then you get there to find out that flight doesn't exist and it's not going anywhere, but your
your
money.
money is gone.
So that's the thing to also be aware of is that they feed in fact I think that was yesterday's post. I talked about what do hackers eat for breakfast, your fear,
Your
yep,
fear.
because they love it, because when you're in a
Yeah,
panic you're not thinking clearly.
that's right. That's what
And
happened to me.
yeah,
Reply ASAP. Oh my God.
and you have your spidey senses, but
I
your
second guessed them.
second guessed yourself, and then they'll keep the barrage coming to interrupt your questioning. So it's the nice thing is there's standard playbooks. It's just like football teams
Hmm.
playbooks, and they use them over and over. So once you learn what they are, you're like, you go, okay, yeah, I see you coming. The other thing you have to look at always, if there's a link, always look always look at
Scares
it.
me.
Always look at it. And also don't never click on the link sent to you in a text. So
Never click. Yeah.
if you get a link, even if it looks legitimate, I just always say if your bank is sending you a link in a text, you go to your bank and you log in or you call from there. I spoke to somebody who was on top of this. They had this, they said, okay, I don't think this is legitimate. And then they said, okay, I don't think this is legitimate. So I'm going to double check with my bank. But because they're in that fight or flight state, what did they do? They called the phone number of the bank that was in the text message, which is a call center for the bad guys who sound like the airline, but aren't. And then they took their credit card over the phone. So you have to you have to look these things up. You have to look up
Yeah.
actually dealing with your bank or the airline, go to um, their known good website and their known good phone number. And in fact, this is a good reason why it's good to have, sometimes you want to have some of those phone numbers that you use regularly or might use,
Hmm.
not to do it for all, 300 accounts that you have logins with, but certainly your financial accounts, it's good to have it so you can always call it to verify. Also, if they're calling you out of that number, sometimes they have an outbound number that's different, but sometimes depending on like if it's credit union or something, it'll actually come through as being them. Now you still have to be suspicious because that's what they do. They put their name in, but this is how they operate. And so you just want to, be suspicious and verify is what I would say.
Okay. Yep. Well, at least I didn't actually take the next step, go to the store, take pictures of the gift cards, send them to them, buy the gift cards or
Right.
whatever.
No, that's great. And you know what? A lot of people have. And the thing is, do you remember, it's one of the reasons there's so much spam, is because it works. And you only need
It works.
1 in 10,000 people to
Yeah.
have it be successful. Hackers get started with a $50 kit, and they have an internship program, basically. A $50 malware kit. They get the malware, and they actually have a mentor who's teaching them how to do these things. So they have an internship program, is what I tell everybody. So you've got to be aware, and it doesn't cost them anything to reach out to lots of people. All they need is an internet connection, and some kind of smart device. So you just want to be savvy, and you want to be suspicious of links, even if they look right, because there's duplication. So like, for instance, I'll use this as an example because PayPal has, there are others, but if you had paypal.com and you went, that looks right, but the last L is actually a capital I in a sans serif font, it looks like PayPal, but it's actually PAYPAI, but it looks like an L because it's capital I. So
Wow, that's
there's ways that you
smart.
do character spoofing. Now, a lot of companies,
Yes.
because this is a known technique, a lot of them there's like the 10 most common,
Oh, mistakes.
and
Yeah.
also mistypings. There's the
Mistypings.
10 most
Okay.
common mistypings and the ones that look right. So a lot of a lot of companies will not just own their own domain, they'll own 30 domains because they're actually doing prevention for us. And I have to say, despite all the hacks that make the news and all the letters that we all get, it could be so much worse. And it's because of our online first responders, the people who work in the cybersecurity industry that are keeping us safe, that it's not far worse. And so I just
Oh,
want to
okay.
shout out to them.
Okay. Yeah, shout out
We're
to
actually in
them.
good shape because of them. And we need more. There are 500,000 open cybersecurity related positions.
Oh my God. My son, he's 12. His best friend, her dad is the head of cybersecurity for Facebook.
Oh, okay. There
And
you go.
they pay a lot of money.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's how he started. He started as a hacker.
Yep.
And it's like being a hacker can get you into the positive side of things and actually help
Yes.
all of us.
Yeah,
So,
actually, and those are the white hats. In fact, I've met people and worked with people who got into cybersecurity by hacking into a government agency in their teens, and they had two options. They could go to prison or come work for the good guys, and then they end up protecting our nuclear submarine codes and all kinds of other things. And we're really glad they're there. And they called black hats and white hats, and
black
it
hats and white hats.
because
Okay.
it is like the cartoons. It's the black hats, the bad guy, the white hats, the good.
Wow. And
And
it's just like one blink away. Just interesting. Well, I mean, so when is your book out? What's next? How can we support you?
Well, thank you. So what I've been predominantly doing since I regained my life and my sanity after all that cyber thing, it took me 5 years to get back to basics, just around really understanding how to protect myself and just having my wherewithal and feeling on my feet again and everything. And through that, like I said, I'm an advisor to businesses and coaches, and I'm doing coaching, but this is my passion project. And I'm at a point where I'm starting to shift over. So I have a new website coming out and people will learn more about it. And I'm going to put these tips out, and I'll have my book coming out. I'm giving free master classes that are 3 hours long where people can come in, learn all the basics. Then I offer, 1 day workshops where you can come in and it's done with you, because let's face it, who wants, I could give you the list of the things to do. And it's like, Phil, it's like, yes, I know I need to make a will, and yes, I know I need to buy, and no, I need to do all this, but nobody wants to spend time on cybersecurity. And that's the thing that most frustrated me when I was looking for help. It all was aimed as though I wanted to get a certification in cybersecurity. I said, I don't want to know cybersecurity. I want to be safer online. And that is the approach I'm taking, because I really haven't found anybody just putting it in simple plain English and helping people, where you come into a workshop and I teach you what you need to know, and then we work on it and you get it done and you leave having checked off the boxes, so that then you can go back to doing what you really want to do, which is living your best life, running your business, checking those bucket list items off, and knowing that you're safer and feeling much safer.
So can people learn more at jocelynking.com?
Yes.
Where are
And I
you
will
sending?
have,
Okay.
yes, and I do have a company name, another website coming, but if you go to jocelynking.com, that's
Okay.
JOCELYNKING.com, you can find me there. You can find my social, you can find and I have a YouTube channel where I'm posting regular videos, starting with these 31. And I'm just on a mission. My vision of what I really like to do with this next chapter of my life is being able to say that I've helped millions of people protect themselves and live safer, better lives. And that's my goal. So you can help me by, taking a look at this yourself and protecting yourself, and also sharing it with anybody else who needs it, because these tips are my gift to you, and what I vowed I would do when I was in the depths of despair and not sure I could take another step forward. I was like, you know what? I'm going to recover, and I'm going to help other people prevent this from happening and help them recover if it happens. And that's what I'm doing. So you're helping me by listening to this and by going to my website. Sign up for the tips and share them with anybody who needs them, so that I can be of help.
Thank you. I really feel your heart and your passion and your sense of service to all of us. I feel like you have a special lean towards women, maybe because you are a woman and this happened to you. But Yeah, but I know you want to help everybody.
Well, I do help everyone. The reason I focus on women is because women, like I said, women are more, and this is a great conversation for every man listening to have with a significant woman in his life. Just say, how important is feeling safe to you? And can you explain that to me? Because I think it's different for women. And if you ask that question, you're going to learn some things. And I think that fundamentally, when you know, safety is much more foundational to women. When I talk to men, they all want to feel safe too, ultimately, and emotionally safe and physically safe and everything. But they 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 physically, I think that through nature and nurture, that it's not at the same level of foundational step. It is step one for women. And in fact, I've even worked with executive women at companies who are, going to talk to the board, or they just got their first, promotion into the executive ranks. Their biggest challenge, it starts with fear. It's that fear of how much risk can I take and how safe am I? And there's
Mm.
emotional safety and physical safety. So women really need to feel safe to move on. And every man reading my book and learning my tips is going to learn a lot of great information to apply and also to share with all the women in his life, because that's the best way a man can protect the women he cares about. And it's the best way that we as women can protect ourselves.
Wonderful. Well, it's been such a pleasure hearing your stories and connecting with you. And I'll put your website and how to order your books in the show notes. Well, thanks for being on the Zen Success Show, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Carissa. I love your show, and and thank you for all that you're doing to help all of us listeners of your show, really just be more successful, be more empowered. I appreciate all that you're doing as well. And to everyone listening, I just wish you the best, I just hope you live your safest, best life ever.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey, and join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.